Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Davina DeVom. It is our first episode of Get Woke, and we are doing a live interview and healing with the amazing Susan Curry of Interiorwerx. So this is kind of a funny story. I was turned on to Susan by my friend George, and all he said was, she just touches you and finds out your frequency and just pulls that shit out of your body. It's clearly. So clearly I was like, what the hell? I need to talk to this woman. So hello, Susan. Thank you for joining us today.
My pleasure. Thank you for this opportunity. This is so cool. Live stream. My first live stream. So I'm a virgin.
Me too. Me too. So on today's adventure of Davina DeVom, I just kind of want to introduce what we'll be doing here. So Susan has a really interesting story. We were chatting a little bit earlier, and Susan, I'd love to hear about, what you were like growing up. What was it like for you to get these weird experiences and all that kind of stuff?
So first of all, as a young child, I grew up in a really structured environment, very formal, structured, highly educational, high performance, excellence, everything about human excellence was practiced. My father was a naval intelligence officer, and my mother was an acquisitions librarian for major universities. So here I am living with these brainiacs, right? And we moved, my father being in the military, in the Navy, we moved quite often. And so my first recollection at receiving, I call this divine data or downloads, was I was about 8 years old, and we had kind of what I called settled down in Chicago. We had stopped moving, and this was going to be our home for my schooling and my siblings' schooling. So I was just playing in the living room, and this it was like cold air went through in between my legs and whooshed out of my mouth. But I think it actually came out of my heart and like power chakra, but words came out of my mouth that said, "Oh, Grandpa's left his body and he feels great." Now, at that very moment, the phone rang, and it was my grandmother saying that Grandpa passed.
Whoa.
Now, my mother, being very, very sophisticated, very elegant and eloquent, she said, "But of course, Susan just told me." So it was kind of like this no thing that I said it, then the phone rang, then it was, but what was the cool thing, it was just very common. So I just thought everybody, it was just that was just part of humanity. I didn't know this was different or special. It is different, special. I believe everybody has it. I just didn't, at that point I thought that's just how humans act, right? So the coolest part of that story for me was the feeling of elation that I felt in my whole body cavity, seeing the spirit of my grandfather leave his body cavity. I actually saw it leave his body cavity and felt this elation. It was like this, like when they say that, you are free, it was like this, whew. Okay. So now I'm being raised Roman Catholic. Okay. I have this, thing going on that, is a really special gift, and I'm so honored and grateful. And I'm being taken to Catholic schools, that's how we're raised, Roman Catholic schools and church. And so now I'm in church, and the priest is up on the altar saying peace or love, and maybe his arthritis is bothering or something, but when he would say the word, if he wasn't resonating at that frequency, I would vomit. I would lose it. I would upchuck. And it would happen all the time. I'd get white and vomit. And I put it together later as an adult. It just was, my mother said, "Well, Susan's sensitive." We didn't really figure out, we just kind of dealt with it. We didn't make a big thing. So, I would sit near the door, and if I felt like I had to lose my cookies, I would go out the side door. So this would, and so that was the beginning of, now that I look back on it, that was the beginning of me picking up inconsistencies in frequency. So if you say the word love and you're not radiating love, I will know it.
So you are allergic to bullshit. You have a physical reaction to bullshit. That's crazy. You're bullshit.
I know, bullshit thermometer or barometer.
Wow.
Which is kind of, I mean, it's so as an adult, it was just interesting to me because I was raised by intellects who said, analyze things, research things, right? So as an adult, I just kept like reading things and being interested and not telling too many people, and just kind of going along through my life. I majored in interior architecture and design. I minored in psychology, so I was always interested in how the mind worked and what could make the human more efficient. I was always trying to figure out like diets that would make that I would feel super energized and not have to eat a lot. I was always kind of interested in what could be the most efficient for the body to feel its best. I mean, that was kind of like a little thing throughout my high school, college, like what can make the human the best,
Because you suffered with allergies, you said, growing up, right?
Yeah. So I, as a child, again, anything that was not of love, so anything not of nature, because love is Mother Nature's love. Mm-hmm. So if I had, I was pretty much living on hot dogs and bologna and all those chemicals. I was sick a lot. I was got migraines a lot. I would throw up often. So I had, these things going up, and I wasn't. One wouldn't say, I mean, I never considered myself like sick. It's just that, I'd have to run out of the room and go throw up and have a pounding headache. So those, and everybody said, oh, well, migraines, your aunt had them or whatever. They run in the family, which I know now doing the work that I do, it wasn't that at all.
Yeah.
Well, the real frequency of that, which is kind of interesting. I mean, yes, it's a barometer for inconsistencies with love and nature, right? But the other thing, within myself, because everything stems from your own emotional, what's going on within you. Any type of that, migraines, that type of thing has to do with invalidation of self. So here I am growing up in a very structured household where, there's not a lot of room to go out into this, and explore, what I'm picking up and feeling. So I had to kind of keep it in check, I guess is the word, a little bit. So I was not validating myself, and so I was holding it in, and I would get the migraines. See what I mean?
That's interesting. So anything that isn't really authentic to who you really are is actually unhealthy. That's actually damaging your body.
Yeah, it really gets you from the inside out. Yes, anger withheld is cancer. Mm-hmm. So anger expelled in the proper way is perfectly wonderful, and it also has a velocity that you can use for fuel for a passion. So what I'm starting to teach people is how to use this anger, how to release it into the earth, and then use that velocity to put your passion put it underneath your passion. So I'm really angry that so-and-so cut me off. Mm-hmm. Okay. So I throw that anger into the earth so it gets grounded and doesn't break glass, which is another interesting topic. And then I take that velocity and I put it into what I really want. I want people around me that are athletic drivers, right? I mean, that's the golden thing out of, this guy cut me off. You want to be surrounded by really great drivers, right? So it's like taking that and flipping it. So releasing the anger quickly, then taking the velocity of that and putting it into your passion of what you really want, which is you want to be surrounded by drivers that are awesome. That if you make a quick right, they all know and they give you the space. You know what I mean? that's the real golden thing. You want to be surrounded by athletic drivers, awesome
Yeah.
athletic drivers. I want them all around me. Okay.
That's super cool.
Right. And so you can take that. So it's like recycling. It's like recycling.
Because, yeah, it's just an energy, right? Yeah.
Right. It's recycling the anger, which is the same, I'll call it velocity, because passion and anger are the same velocity. It's just that anger has a certain hertz, and passion, which is love, has 528 hertz. Okay, so they have a different hertz, but it's like the same kind of fan, we'll call it, or a motor underneath it. And then so imagine that you're taking the motor and flipping it over into the love cycle, and now, oh my gosh, within 2 blocks, now I've got all these awesome drivers around me, and they got great cars and good haircuts. Right?
That's awesome. So you just visualize taking the anger, sending it to the earth, and then you like pull it back up and turn it into whatever you want.
Exactly. It's recycling the velocity. It's recycling the energy, which got you to the realization anyway, because you're passionate about, if you weren't passionate, anger is passion.
Yeah, because if you didn't care about it, you wouldn't get triggered. You wouldn't get angry.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, anger is also an indicator that there's some work deep in, because if you keep getting triggered about people cutting you off, then you got to get in, then that's when we dig deep and get the stories. See, I have my jacket on with the stories, get to the bottom line of, when you were 2, you were in the car with your dad and somebody cut him off and he was super scared. So you've got that fear molecule having to do with that. So that's the work that I do. I dig in to the energetic, emotional body and find the original inception of why you're getting it in the first place, which is the work that I do. But the everyday person, instead of, I'm not sure if they'll get to the bottom of it. I will, I do, because that's what I've perfected. But the everyday person can take it, throw it into the earth, and then flip it into and get the golden nugget of what they really want.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So that's like an everyday practice. And then if you really want to get rid of it, then you come do some work and we pull it out and you're done with it. Because it's just a frequency that happened to subconscious makes agreements. The frequencies get stuck in the cytoplasm, which is the little juicy stuff of the cells, and they usually reside in the organs. And that's it. That's the bottom line. And I figured it out. I've been researching and practicing on people for quite some time, about 15 years. And just brought it to market about just a little over a year ago.
Wow.
Great successes, fun stuff. Yeah, really good.
Yeah, so can you also tell us, when you finally decided, like, okay, I got to do something with this, because you were saying that you just get downloads randomly from people, right? Like you would be at a party and then you would just...
It was really hard. I mean, there was a period of time where I didn't go. I mean, like I was like a little, just stay when, I won't call it a shut-in, but there was a period of time, probably 8 years, where I wouldn't go to parties. I couldn't go to concerts. I couldn't go to anything. Not that I couldn't, but it was just too much information. Somebody's gallbladder is going to burst. This guy's going to have this, oh my gosh, why is he fighting with this? I mean, there's just so much like static information coming to me that it was not fun at all. I was like so tired by the time I come back from a party. I'm like, because I just got all these other information about people that I really didn't care. Who cares that he has a wart on his, big toe or whatever? I mean, it was just weird. Like, really? I have to know he has a wart on his big toe? Really? That just kind of blew it for me. I got to go now.
You could be on a date with somebody.
Impossible date? No, that's dump him. No.
You're like, I don't even need to ask you any questions.
I haven't dated. I mean, I didn't date I'm just coming out of my shell about dating. I mean, seriously, I didn't date for 10 years. Can you imagine being on a date with me? I mean, me being on a date, or them being
you like touch their hand and you're like, oh, he's got crabs.
Oh my God, are you still fighting with your mother? I mean, like, it was just so much information. So, wow. I had to figure out, okay, so, and then I was like, you know what, stop with this information, because I've been like, all I want is happy, healthy humans, peaceful planet. That's it.
Yeah.
Those are my main deals, okay? And I
What
want
more do you have?
excellence. I want human excellence. You know, people performing and doing things over the top, spectacular. Okay, so that's all I'm on board for.
Yeah.
So there was a period of time where I was getting these downloads, and I wasn't getting any, like, I would just get the information, like a list, but I wasn't getting any information that would help them. So I'm like, well, this is a waste of time.
Right.
So then,
what do? You're like at the supermarket and you're like, oh, sir, you got,
acid reflux. I mean, if you just stop yelling at your wife, the acid reflux will go away. You know, I mean, like, I was like, oh gosh, you know. Anyway, so I remember it vividly. I went out in my backyard, and I started like yelling, "Stop giving me this information without the solution." I said, "Stop it." I'm an interior designer. I have a beautiful life. I go all over the world, pick out pretty things, make houses pretty, talk about gorgeous finishes. So I was like, and I got to know this about so-and-so when I'm working at their house, you know. So to me, it was like useless information unless it's going to be of service. So I demanded to get the data to be of service. I said, give me the data that I can be of service. The very next day, I'm in this spiritual community, Unity, excuse me, holding hands with a really handsome, muscular, really cut body man. And I'm holding hands with him, and I'm getting the download that he's anemic. Okay, he's a rock star, handsome, muscular guy. And I have to tell, you know, I'm getting a download that he's anemic. He's probably feeling dizzy. I mean, he looks like so strong and solid. And I'm like, oh yeah, okay. You know, I'm listening, and then I'm like, blood, and then it's coming to me, he's blood type O, which I didn't know there was an O. I knew there was an A and AB and those things, but I never heard of an O. And then I said, okay, what's the solution? You know, and that was the first time I got the solution, which was for him to eat 10 ounces of bison, red meat.
Whoa.
Which, okay, so I looked at him and I said, look, this is my first time, but I think I got some really good data for you. I said, you're a blood type O. He's like, he's shaking his head going, yeah. I said, oh, good, there's a blood type O. Okay, just checking. I said, and you're feeling anemic, which means you're kind of dizzy. He goes, yeah, I've been dizzy for like 3 weeks. I can't figure it out. I work out, I do everything right, I'm eating great, blah, blah, blah. And I said, no, I got the solution. You need to eat 10 ounces of bison, you know. And he said, really? But I'm vegetarian. I said, since this is new to me and I'm kind of doing an experiment, could you please just humor me and do this and then call me and see how you feel? It's like, okay, you know. I said, but do exactly what I say. It can't be steak. It can't be beef. It has to be bison. It has to be 10 ounces. It can't be 12 ounces. I said, do exactly what the information that came to me. Okay. He's like, okay, I'm on it. I'm going right to the store. I'm going to get it. So he gets it. Da, da, da. He eats it. He's like, oh my God, I feel like I haven't felt in months. The dizzies are all gone. I'm going to the gym. This is great. This is awesome. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. That was the first time, and that was like 15 years ago, that I got the data to help the human be healthy and happy. And then I said, okay, now we got something. Now you got my attention. Now I'm going to pay attention. And so from that point on, I started reading everything because I'm like, okay, so you got something you can make something out of. You know what I mean? And you can be of service and you can help people. It's kind of fun. It's fast. You're not poking anybody with needles or whatever. And I love helping people and I love people being their best. So then I started reading everything, just staying up all night, reading quantum physics, spirituality. I've read everything, every religious community, every psychology book I could get my hands on. I kind of skipped over the anatomy because every time I touch something, I know what it is anyway, so I don't really need the anatomy. So it's really it just intrigued me. I have a curious mind, and I kept having successes. I have many successes, but I started practicing with people in the grocery store, or my kids friends, or just random. So and so, whatever. People on the street. I live in Chicago. There's a lot of people to work on. So I just kind of started doing my own research and kept doing one good thing after another. And I'm like, okay, so this is a thing. This is viable. This is helpful. It has my attention. I'm very intellectual, so to me, it's like, okay, it's kind of crazy fun. And it's a human at their all-time. I know I'm using a part of my brain that not everybody uses. A capacity of the brain. I know that I'm reaching another dimension, usually the 12th to 14th dimension.
Wow.
I didn't even know there were dimensions when I started doing this. I didn't know, but I asked the information. I'm like, what dimension am I getting? Okay, there's a dimension. What dimension am I getting in? So I get 12 to 14 is the dimension that I reach. So sometimes, I get really, I'm way up into what I call an orbit kind of thing, but it's like super fast and fun. And my body still is sensitive like it was, so that when I touch ping pong wing somewhere, that will give me the indication to go at that portion. So if I get a twinge in my liver, I know it's their liver.
Oh, wow.
So whatever, if I hold someone's hand, it's their stuff, not mine. So it's really cool. And that gives me the indication to go to that spot and then dig in there and say, okay, is it anger, frustration, sadness, sorrow, rage? Because those are the things that create that which is not of joy and love in your body or in your life. So I ask if it's one of those, because anger is different than rage. Anxiety is different than fear. They all have different frequencies. Yeah. So I can tell, I get, my body acts as a natural pendulum. So my body will actually, and this happened in another spiritual community. So all these little bits of the tool, I call it a modality, this Interiorwerx. And interior is because it's inside, obviously really inside. And then works is energy release experience. So the ERX is for energy release experience.
Oh, cute. And you're an interior designer.
And I'm an interior designer, and I love everything that's, and so it's an inside job, right? Yeah. And so another portion of this modality that came to me was in another spiritual community, Bodhi spiritual community. And again, I was singing a song, and I closed my eyes, and I had heels on really high. Mm-hmm. And I was standing up singing the song. I closed my eyes. And as I was singing the words, it was as if somebody took their hands and shoved me forward. It was scary fun, where I turned around like this because I thought, it was a natural reaction to like, boom, and there was no one there. And so I tried it again. I closed my eyes and I started singing a word, and pushed me again. I'm like, okay, 3 times the charm, let's try it again. Did it again, and then this time it was from the front. And I'm like, what is this? This is cool. What was happening is when I said sadness, I was getting pushed backwards. When I said joy, I was getting pushed forward.
So it's like muscle testing, right?
It's muscle testing, but it's like my little tiny body is being pushed like by hands.
Wow.
Like strong. I mean, now I wear flats or because if I wear heels, it's like, whoa, it's like my body is being pushed, which is pretty cool. I mean, it's pretty awesome. When I first saw myself recorded doing my practice, I'm like, oh my God, I look like I'm flying. Because it's going forward and backwards and forward because I'm asking and asking. I'm fast too. I just ask and answer, keep going, da, da, da. And so my body's going back and forth giving me the answers so that I can hone in and get to the real story that you were 2 years old and your bike was stolen or whatever the story is. So I keep going back, digging, and my body's going back and forth. Yes, no, it was with your aunt. No, it was with your uncle. Okay, yes, no, yeah, So I ask a question, and then it's answered by a push. It's way cool. It's way cool. I also get like the figure 8. My body will. So sometimes when I connect to someone, if they're rocking in love, my body just does a figure 8. It doesn't mean that I can't.
Cool.
Isn't that cool? And it doesn't mean that I won't find a few little things to pull out, to cleanse out. but their predominant frequency is love. So, I mean,
oh my God, that's so awesome. I'm so curious to see what my predominant one is because I have a lot of mood swings.
which is great because that means you're connected to your passion.
Oh, okay. That's a
Yeah.
good way to put it.
Yeah.
Cool. So Susan, I also want to ask you about when you started really getting into it, right? And then you were working with psychiatrists, you said? What was that like?
Well, that was really cool. So I worked with a forensic psychologist, a psychiatrist in Chicago, one of the top, and he's still a practicing psychiatrist. And he allowed me to be, I call it an internship, kind of shadow him. And he had been a client of mine. He had been doing work with me on his own personal work. And he said, "This is so cutting edge. I really, I would be interested in you being in my office if you want to try." I said, "It is cutting edge." And at that time, I really wanted to see, I wanted to prove to myself that I could really make a difference and do some really powerful work. Because otherwise, I was just going to continue doing my interior design, having fun, with that. But if this was really something that could be powerful, then I wanted to know what I was capable of. So in his office, I had a lot of opportunity, high depression people, murderers. He worked for does work with the attorneys and things to see if people are fit to stand trial. So pretty intense people that have intense things going on. So I thought, well, okay, so you're in an arena that's a little bit different than just the everyday life. What can you do? So one of his clients was in jail, accused of murder. And I said, wouldn't it be cool if I could pull the molecule that started it in the first place and he could have a whole transformation reconciliation?
Mm.
Because, excuse me, I believe that people that come on the planet, everybody comes on the planet of love. These things get lodged, and then they can create this explosion, this volatile explosion.
Mm.
So the doctor was interested in the research and the experiment, but he said, "I'm not. It would take a lot to be able to get you to get you into jail to see him." He said, "Can you do it through me?" And at that point, I didn't know if I could do it through anybody. I just had always done things direct. But then again, I hadn't worked with anybody who was accused of murder. So I said, okay, well, let's give it a go. Let's try it. I said, and I haven't watched newscasts for 15 years. No TV, no newspaper, no microwave. Like living in a little bubble, not going to parties. People would tell me who was running for president because I don't really. I don't know. I mean, my mom would call me sometimes and say, "You really should know this in the news." I said, "Really? Should I?" And, and she's like, "Well, I don't think so." The news, I said, no, I don't think I need this information. I'll get the information when I need it, but I don't think I need to have you read me the headlines. It's okay that I don't, I'll get the info when I need it. So, which is kind of cool because it keeps you real pure, right?
Yeah.
It just keeps, you don't have any opinion. You don't have anything going on. You don't even know the names of these people that are, whatever's going on with these court systems and whatever, right? I don't care what their names are. So he's got this guy, pretty high profile. I don't know who it is. I said, well, let me put my hand on his shoulder and see if I can gather the data and then find the frequency and then pull it through you. Let's give it a go. So while I'm doing this, I put my hand on his, and he told his assistant, this is what we're working on. So his assistant comes in with this whole file with a picture of the crime scene and all that, the whole file. And she comes walking in the door. I go, no, out. No pictures, nothing. I don't want any files or anything. She said, oh, okay, out. And so she takes it out. I put my hand on him and downloaded the whole deal, what went down, how he did it, where he did it, what happened. He did do it. I mean, that was the first thing I wanted to find out. He's accused of it, but did he really do it?
Mhm.
So I said, yes, he did it, and he did it here, and this is how he did it. And he wrote something on her, wrote mom on her back in pen or whatever. So, I mean, all the details came to me, choo, 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 choo. Okay. Which is interesting in itself, because that can be very helpful to anybody in legal realm, any attorney that's working with someone. I mean, if you want to get the real deal, let's download it. You can always.
That's crazy.
It's
Wow.
crazy good. It's crazy good, right? I mean, it's just crazy fun. Why not? I mean, you can substantiate it after. I mean, he didn't have to. He had the file filled. He had read the file. It was all what I was downloading, the information. So it's just another tool. I mean, I find it cool and fascinating, but I kind of jump over that it's different because it's a tool. It's a wonderful tool. Imagine, I mean, some people would go in jail and they didn't really do what they're accused of doing.
Yeah.
What if you have an attorney who has someone like me who just downloads data? Obviously, they're going to have to substantiate it. Like my thing won't be admissible or however, but it's a tool to get people in the right place faster with the right data and to point them in the right direction. Go behind the shed and find this, and boom, there it is.
Wow.
I've found things that are lost. If so, it's interesting to me. So then, now let's just go back to that the murderer man. So I download all the data, which was interesting, and that's a sidebar because it can be helpful in the legal system for attorneys to substantiate and validate their clients. Okay, but then secondly, the frequency that was installed in this guy, I'll call it installed, because as this little guy was being born, and this was a story that I found out by going back, testing and going back. When this little guy was born, when this man was born, his mother, who was not very well educated or very spiritual or sophisticated at all, okay, she's calling this guy every motherfucker, blah, blah, blue name in the book, okay, because she's in pain, and so she's putting all her anger and rage into this guy coming through the birth canal as he's entering the world. Right? So now all these little things of rage are going into him, okay? And he grows up, I'm sure, I don't know his background, but I'm sure he had a not nice background right? But these things grew and grew and grew and grew until he met someone who looked like mom, had a relationship with her, stabbed her, wrote mom on her back. The end. Because she triggered that old anger rage that was installed in the first place.
Wow, literal. He wrote mom on her back. Wow.
Exactly. But it all makes black and white sense, doesn't it? I mean, it all makes in the realm of frequency, it makes all black and white sense. It is, and so that's why when I was doing this work, I'm like, I'm a brainiac. I'm an intellect. I love going deep, And so this to me now, the coolest part is I pulled that frequency out. Because I said, okay, let's whip it out of him, throw it into the earth. So I pulled it, and what I do is I siphon it out. I siphon it through my body for a minute, and then I throw it into the earth, into the ground. So it can, actually Mother Earth makes it into crystals, which is just a sidebar, which is kind of cool.
That's where crystals come from?
Yeah, the crystals are made by, specifically rage makes one that's like a brownish gold. Specifically, I don't know the name of it. I'll have to get back to you on that. But
so, what about like the love ones, the pink ones?
yeah. So I would imagine those are from people loving up the earth. So I mean, if we get all pinks and purples, then we know we did our work, right? So go back to so Mr. Murder Man. Now we pull this anger thing out. So then the download after I did it through the doctor. During the day, I told the doctor, go bring him some apple cider vinegar, Bragg's. I love Bragg's. Apple cider vinegar, and have him he just needs a little sip of it, but have him have a taste of it before you have your session. You know, you're going to have some time talking to him before you have your session with him. Okay. So he brings it, he drinks it. Full confession. The guy starts crying tears. Full, you know, I'm sorry. Why did I do it? Now, before this, I didn't do it. I loved her. I would never do that. Okay. Because his conscious mind thought that. His
Yeah.
subconscious mind, which had the anger molecule in it, was the one that actually murdered her. You see what I'm saying? So now that we've released the anger molecule from him, now his conscious mind's like, what the fuck? What did I do? It's like, how do I make amends? How do I make this right? Oh my God, why I would never want to do this. Of course he didn't want to. It was that. So now the frequency's out of him and he's reconciled. He's like, what can I do to make it right? Obviously her body's not going to come back, but now this human has made a reconciliation. So how do I help other people? I mean, all he wanted to do was do it. What do I do to make it up?
Wow.
Now he's got
like, in moments like that, he was just overtaken by an anger molecule, and then you have to
triggered, and he went into action mode. And men are action modes. Women are too, but men. So normally, like if you look at the statistics of men and women violence, there's more men because men are action based. So if they have a feeling or whatever, then they go right into action. Women will release it or cry or let it out. Right. And then it doesn't become an action where they're going at, angry at. Now, some women do flip, and anger, it's huge. It's wonderful. I mean, it's a great velocity, but it does do amazing, like it does break glass and stuff. I mean, I've broken glass twice now. So, in my own experiments.
So you also work with people who are schizophrenic and have PTSD, you said, and depression.
Schizophrenic. I've done several schizophrenics, and both. One was in full rage. So in her case, I just disarmed the rage at that moment, so that she was like a love pussycat, and I was petting her hair. Even though 3 minutes before she was going to make me into a small pancake. So that was great. And then the other one that I worked with, I released the other spirit in her body because schizophrenia has to do with more than one. There's an original spirit, and then this one happens to be what I call a Klingon, where they come into the body temple at some period of their life. So that when I released the second spirit, and then her eyes were flatlined, and then when I released it, her eyes came back to life. And I even have a writing of her with her. She wrote her name in the beginning. It was like an old lady, very wiggly, and then afterwards it was flowing and beautiful, and so it's very powerful.
That's easy.
I know so that's why I keep doing it. It's like crazy good. It's crazy.
So it's all just frequencies and spirits.
I mean, we're spiritual entities in a body, okay? And then within the body, there's a lot of liquid. We got a lot of liquid going on.
Yeah.
And so frequencies, which are, they're measurable frequencies, get stuck in the liquid. And then they embody us, right? But our spirit is the spirit center, but it has this, we'll call it like static. We'll call it static, right? But it's stuff that's not of love. Now, anything that's of love, then, it's just all, then when you've got some imbalance there, like with allergies or with anything your body tells you, then there is some frequency that's not of love. So it's sadness or sorrow or rage or anything. So your body will tell you. So healthy people can do this work too, because you can do it I call it, a step ahead of the game, because you can pull frequencies out
before they react to something.
Before they do something. So this is a cool story. A gal had a toothache. This is just a really cool story. I'd never met her. I'd met her mom. Her mom said, could you work on my daughter? She's in California. I said, I think at that time, now I know I can work anywhere. I can work over the phone anywhere with anyone, whether I met them or not. At that time, I wasn't sure. And since I was working like with the doctor, I worked through him touching. So I thought I was going to have to touch her to do it, but she was at work and her daughter was at home. She's got a terrible toothache. Could you help her? I said, I'll give it a go. Let me give it a go. So I called her while I was outside, so my feet were to the ground. And I did the work, pulled the frequency. Her toothache totally went away. She was totally pain-free, I think within 4 hours.
Wow.
Now follow this, because this was like, I was like, so she, I said, text me, through the night or in the morning and just let me know. Totally gone, right? I said, now, when you come back, because her dentist is here in Chicago, said, when you come back, please make a dental appointment and check out that tooth and just make sure that there's not something, Now, the doctor had already done an x-ray before she left and said, we're going to have to do something to this tooth. It has, we have to make it, we're going to have to do something. And then she had the toothache, 2 months later. I pulled the tooth, and it's not me. I connect to the information that will allow me to pull it out. So it's not, I call myself a vehicle. It's not really me.
Yeah, you're a vessel.
Yeah. It's just, okay, so I connected, pulled it out. She went to the dentist. The dentist did an x-ray. The tooth is 100% healthy. The x-ray that he took before, the tooth was not 100% healthy. So now the dentist is apologizing to her. I'm so sorry. I made a mistake before. And she goes, no, you didn't make a mistake before. I just had another consult. And she didn't really get into it, because she's like, I don't really want to. If he asked me, I'll tell him. But he didn't ask, so I just kind of.
I just called the tooth fairy.
Yeah, that's a good. So isn't that the coolest?
That's amazing.
It's so fun. So to me, it's like fast, fabulous, and fun. And it saves people a lot of money. That's why I'm like, this is a valuable service. It's wonderful.
Absolutely. And you can also do groups, right? You were telling me that you work with entire teams.
With what?
You work with entire teams.
Yeah. I would love to work with a whole sports team. That would be really cool. I have worked with a sports team, not a pro one, but little guys, and very successful. They weren't batting. They weren't getting any hits. The coach told them, my guys, they're not getting any hits. And the coach and my son was on the team, and the coach and I had been talking. I've been telling him about the research that I was doing. So he comes up to me and goes, get in there, make my kids hit, So I'm like, okay, well, I'll give it a go. And so I asked the parents, do you mind if I go and put my hand on your child's shoulder? I didn't want to just jump in there and yeah, sure, go ahead. One woman said, wait a minute, what are you doing? I said, well, I'm going to go in there, and there's probably a frequency that's, keeping them unaligned with their magnificence. So I'm just going to take care of it. And she goes, do you think you're Jesus Christ? And I said, I love Jesus. He's one of my idols. I said, I think I'm Susan Curry. And then she looked at me and she's like, okay, go ahead. You can work on my son. So we are now very good friends. But she was just like, for her, it was a spiritual thing, and it is spiritual, but it's spiritual and it's science together. It's so perfectly balanced to me.
Yeah.
It's so perfect, science can explain it and spirituality does it, It's just like, it's so beautiful. So I went in and I, went to each of the little boys, pulled it out. What had happened is this big coach had gotten excited and had triggered something in these little guys that had happened when they were 7 or 8. I think they were only 10 then, but that was when they were 7 or 8. Another coach got real excited and they couldn't hit. they lost their bats because the coach was so anxious. So I pulled
Mm.
the anxiety out of each one of these kids. That wasn't the original one. I went to the original one, pulled it all out. They all, next inning, they all got on. I mean, they all hit. It's like, that's what I'm talking about. Hits. So it's so cool. I just keep doing it.
That's you should totally just hang out like in the little box next to all the players and be like, okay, Chicago, how much are you gonna pay me to make all these guys winners right now?
I it is a tool. It's a wonderful, viable, quick, non-invasive tool that brings excellence to the human form. And that's what I'm all about: excellence in the human form. That's it. We. Oh man, I mean, we've got the best machine on the planet. Our bodies are amazing.
Mm.
It's just so to keep it clean and fresh, and in its love frequency, and in its. I mean. People can do anything. My daughter's a pro athlete. Okay, she's an equestrian, and raising her, I've been around amazing athletes that do crazy things. They drop down underneath the belly of a horse and pull themselves up and under. They
Wow.
cantilever backwards and pick up doilies off the ground while the horse is going full board. My daughter jumped through a ring of fire by the time she was 14. Why? Because she's clear, aligned, in her power, and rocking. So that's what I want to facilitate on the planet. That people are aligned in their power and just rocking whatever it is. That if they're a musician, if they're a teacher, if they're whatever they choose for their vocation, just that they're in their excellence. I've cleared things from kids, from teachers, like a kid had a stiff neck, couldn't, every time he turned it hurt. Put my finger on it. It was the anxiety from a teacher thinking of her mother who was dying. The kid picked it up in class. I pulled it out. He's like, oh, okay, it's gone. It's gone like that.
Wow. Wow.
So, I mean, so to keep teachers clean, so they're not like infecting the classroom would be a cool thing.
Yeah.
Keeping kids clear, each night with my own children, each night I clear them every night. I go through and, boom, 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 just check it out, clear to go. Okay, sweet dreams. My daughter started it. This is so fun because my daughter started, I used to think she had to listen to me say, oh, here's one, here's one, here's one. She goes, Mommy, just take care of it while I sleep. Check my ankle and my this and my that. And I'm like, okay, got it. And sure enough, I could do it while she slept. Now that's also a mother-daughter and mother-son bond, so that, but I believe that I could probably do children while they sleep, because it's just it's a connection on a different level on a mother nurturing level.
Mm-hmm.
Adults, I like them to be engaged, meaning listen to me or listen to what I'm finding.
Mm-hmm.
But other than that, it works really well. For a lot of different
I'm so excited to try this. So when it comes to, you were saying living in alignment. So what are some just practical tools that we can start practicing every day to help us be in more alignment?
So here's a great take home. When you have an emotion, that's uncomfortable, it's to kind of out it and release it. So like if you have a fear, I am scared, and then feel it just for a second, and then like just see, like pretend you're throwing it into the earth or into a plant, something that's going to ground it, so that you out it and you release it, and then you go on, and then you're like, okay, now we're done with that. It really clears the space for what you're creating, and you're not bringing the fear to the table. It's still there because you haven't siphoned it out, but you're getting the first layer, the immediate layer out. See what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's a huge thing. And then the second huge thing, like home practical take home thing, is the person that triggers you, whoever's your intimate, whoever you're spending time with is going to trigger you, okay? The trigger has nothing to do with you or them other than you're feeling it and you need to release it.
Yeah.
So they're like the coach that and they're training you to be in the Olympics and they're asking you to do 14 more rounds on the track and you're like, oh shit. Okay, so they're that person. It's like, shit, okay, I'm really angry. And then you run or you look the other way and just talk yourself out of it or you know, you can either talk yourself out of it. Okay, I'm angry. I'm letting it go. It's all okay. It's fine. I'm done. Okay? But away from that person and then come back to that person and say, okay, could you say that again?
Mm-hmm.
That person is actually coaching you. And by the time 2, 3, 4 times that the person says exactly what they said, you will reach neutral.
Wow, that's awesome. That's awesome. So
you won't share.
You mean you're my attention coach.
Well, and you won't share. I mean, you'll share it with them, but you won't share it with them, right? So they won't say, "Oh, I'm so sorry for making you sad." No, don't be sorry. Thank you. And you go, "I'm sad. I got to get rid of this one. I thank you for bringing it to my attention." And you go talk to yourself or go. I used to run into the laundry room, and talk into the laundry bowl, and then I'd run back and say, "Okay, let's try it again." And then I'd run away if I didn't feel, and then the third time they'd say it. I'm like, oh, peaceful. Oh, okay. Now I can hear you. Now you can have the conversation.
Uh-huh.
Okay. Now the other person's sitting there going, okay, she's a little freaky, but she's great. Right? But you're not sharing it with them, and they're also learning by seeing you do what you're doing. I mean, it's a big deal thing. I mean, it's like, it's deep. I call it deep shit work. It really is.
Totally. I mean, I get the same way. Like for me, my family, they trigger me a lot. And I think for a lot of people, they're our greatest teachers, right? And communication has always been a struggle for like me and my mom especially. And I'm just at the point where I'm just like, Mom, you're triggering me. I can't. You're just triggering me. She's like, what the fuck does that mean? I don't know. These like inner child issues are coming up. I can't talk to you. She's like, what? And I'm like, I'll talk to you later. I can't do this right now.
But then, now the person on the other side, okay, so say I triggered you. Okay, the work on the other side is for that person to just lovingly receive what you're doing and no judgment.
Yeah.
And I call this the crying baby one. Okay, so when you're a mom and your baby is screaming at the top of its lungs, okay, and you are just, at first you're a little annoyed because it's really loud, so you kind of like, oh, okay, oh, wow, that's loud. And you were in a sound sleep, but you run and you embrace that child and you give it like this strong love, okay? That's the same thing that's the work for the person that you're triggering. So say I trigger you and you're like, fuck. Now I'm just like standing there strong going, Petra, you got this. I'm here with you and you got it. Just like I'm embracing a baby. Mm-hmm. And I'm solid and strong and I'm not going there with you. I'm not in your pain with you. I'm just standing here like a tree trunk. I got you. So I'm engaged in the reconciliation, right? Or the transformation. Mm-hmm. I'm engaged in it, but I'm not doing it for you.
Yeah.
If I'm standing and holding it solidly that I got ya and you're doing it and you got this and it's all well. So that's the other side of it.
That's cool.
It's really cool.
Container of love. That's awesome. That's awesome. That's so useful to know.
It's so cool because my 22-year-old daughter, she says, I got a trigger came up for me and she goes, just go take care of that. That's how we talk to each other now. I'm like, oh, like that. I'm like, oh. And then she just looks at me and she goes, just go take care of that. I'll be over here when you're ready. Like.
I love it.
And I went and I stomped. I went away from her and like, fuck this, and stomped. And then I came back. She's like, where are you? I said, I'm done. I'm coming over. She's like, oh, okay, I'm over here. It's just, it's a no thing.
Because every time you're triggered, you just kind of turn into that little child, right? You like need to have a tantrum, like need to let it go, and then after that, you're like, okay, cool, I'm chilling. Like I just need to.
Right, but imagine how healthy that is.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Imagine how healthy. The person that triggered you doesn't feel, I mean, she's my coach, she's my she's my coach, right? I'm her coach. When she does her thing, I'm like, okay, I got you, I'm here. She's like, oh, just hold on, She releases it, boom. Now she's also learned, and this is another thing, this is like kind of a mastery thing, but she's learned to take the anger molecule and pull the velocity out of it and put it into her passion. She's a hunter jumper. She's one of a pro hunter jumper and equestrian. So she'll get angry at maybe she cut the jump a wrong way and didn't get aligned for the jump. So she'll be angry that she didn't get aligned, and she takes that anger like this and she pulls it under her passion that she wants to be up and over it so high. And she does. She'll clear the rails by a foot.
Wow.
And her trainer's like, man, you do some really good work when you're angry. She goes, yeah, I know how to power it up.
Transmute it. Yeah.
Yeah. It's not transmuting though. It's powering it out. It's at that moment that she's like kind of dissing that she was off, on the entry to this jump. She flips her mind into what she wants. She wants the jump straight up and she wants to jump high. Mm-hmm. So she flips her thought process from I messed up to I got this and I'm going to be even higher than I thought. See what I'm saying? So it's like flying it up and over and taking that same passion, because that anger gets things stirred up, which is great. I mean, that's why, it's just great to do this, to have that and then just take it, because anything under 15 to 17 seconds will not, anything under 20 seconds basically will not materialize.
Oh.
So you can be angry for something for 10 seconds, and it's not going to manifest or whatever. People are scared about manifestation. I don't want people to be scared of it, but if you keep it short and sweet and release it and get into what the golden nugget is and flip it, now you've got that velocity that's going to take you even higher. Oh yeah, I wasn't going to do X. Now I'm going to do X, right?
Awesome. Okay, that's a cool thing to remember. The 20-second rule.
It's a 20-second rule, yeah.
Okay. And then flip it and just go on with your life. All right, I'm going to remember that one.
And then for the beginner step is just to realize what it is and try to name it. Is this anger? Is this rage? Is this anxiety? Try to name it and then release it. That's the beginner step. Okay. And then once you get, because there's different, you have to know which one is what and kind of out it. Mm-hmm. Okay, I see you, fear. Mm-hmm. Now come on. Okay, into the earth, and then back up into what you really want, and then go forward. Yeah. And thank the person that triggered you. Thank you so much. That was great. Really? It looks a little uncomfortable. I know, but it was great.
Yeah, I started playing this game. Me and my friend made up this game called the Awakening Olympics. And we just kind of, we just get points. So it's like, my friend Monica always says, the bigger the breakdown, the bigger the breakthrough, So it's like, whatever happens, if some bullshit happens in my life, I'm just like, patience points, love points, integrity points, totally just testing me. I see you, and it's like, we're both the sim and the simulator. So it's like, when I have a friend, Michael, when he gets emotional, like he kind of has this anger thing sometimes, I'm just like, look at your thumbs. Just look at your thumbs. Remember, you are also the simulator. You set this up for yourself so you can have this experience, and you just catch yourself in it. You're like, oh, okay, I see what I did there. Moving on. Like,
really, really good.
Awakening points.
I've got a next appointment coming up, so I'm going to have to sign out and make a run, make a quick run. So, oh my gosh, so much fun.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for joining us. I guess we'll have to reschedule the actual live healing session then.
And we can do that. well, we can talk about that offline, but
Yeah.
we'll get that set up. But thank you, love, blessings.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for exploring this, and thank you for your questions. Thank you for your interest. I mean, thank you for being interested in this type of healing. It's so fun and fast and fabulous. Let's do it to everyone.
I can't wait to experience this. I'm so excited to get freaky with your frequencies.
Yay.
All right, Susan. Thank you.
Honored and humbled. Thank you so much. Okay. Namaste.
Namaste.